Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry about my voice. I have been sick for like a week or so. So sorry about that. My daughter is also here in the room if you hear something noisy. So I just wanted to share quickly with you an overview of October's card kit from Hero Arts. So your products, when you get them, will come really nicely packaged. I just have samples, so I just wanted to point that out. In this set there is this beautiful large stamp set, and we have some sentiments in my Merry era. Have a ball this Christmas, deck the halls with disco balls, and that fits this month's theme perfectly because it's Christmas and the ornament is sort of a disco ball, so that is super fun. Christmas is too sparkly, said no one ever, and I think that is really cute. So you can see you have all of these branches and a build up, so you can layer these up and you will have a glare too. And of course there is coordinating dice to cut all of these out. So that is really fun. You probably can create some interactive elements that will circle around with this one. So I think I will playing around with that one. And I love that also the sentiments are being cut out. And in this set there is also this very large disco ball. You can see it's really cute. So we have the bow for this one and some stars and the top of it. So that is so nice. So in this card kit there is also these pattern papers and 2 half sheets of this beautiful matte metallic cardstock. Can't wait to play with this. I believe it's the cardstock from Spellbinders, and they are just so gorgeous. I love the palette for this month. Very, very festive, and I know that I will be creating a bunch of cards with these, and that these will go a long way since you don't need too much for a project. Besides all of the things in the kit, you can also get some extras. So this is the die of the month. So you have these light strings and you have your light bulbs that you can cut out of different colored cardstock. Just love that they come in a ton of them, so you can run it through quickly with just one pass. And if you get all of the subscriptions, I believe you will also get this one. Merry every thing, I think it will say. I believe it's thing. So that is really cute. And that is also the, I don't have the stencil of the month and also the background stamp. But I think beside that, I think that is it, and that is what you will be getting. So that is super nice and super kind of them to send all of this to me to try out. So I will be back now and create some cards together with you.
So let's get into making these cards. I started off by creating my own background pattern. So I took these small holly leaves and the berries and started in the center of a piece of white cardstock. And I will now stamp around this entire background or the entire paper to create my background. You can see I'm just having a bit of space between my clusters of the holly, the berries and everything, and I thought I would have this sentiment on top, but I ended up having that on another piece of or another card later on. But I just wanted to share my thought process around this and also how the finished background looked. And you can see I took some cream colored card stock and cut this Merry Everything sentiment out, and I cut it out of the cardstock that comes in this kit. And then I kept going. I love these colors together. And you can see with liquid glue this goes quite quickly just to attach everything. And I love that this comes with this shadow space that is really narrow, so you can see a lot of the background when it's on top of it. I wanted another sentiment for another card. have a ball this Christmas. Really cute sentiment. And of course I messed up, so I need to start all over. I'm doing this again. You can see I have some white pigment ink from Hero Arts, and I will heat emboss this later on, but I like sometimes when I have colored cardstock to just have it in this white pigment ink so that I really can get a nice impression, even though maybe my heat embossing wasn't perfect. For adding some interest to my cards, I wanted some of these pine sprigs. I don't know if you can call it that, but you can see I cut them with the coordinating dies, and I had the green on top of a green cardstock, so it really looks like a fuller piece, I guess. And then I created this beautiful bow to go on top of my disco ball. You can see how that looks, and I will have those sprigs on top, and we will have the topper there. I will actually remove that later on. I create a thicker layer of that disco ball so we have some more dimension. For the background I took these sort of glowing or star-shaped stamps and just created a tone-on-tone background. This is also a piece of cardstock that comes in this kit. I love this blue. I think it's so pretty, but I will end up covering a lot of it, but it's there, and that is all that matters to me because I really like it. I will now mix it up and start creating on my next card. You can see we have these sort of ornaments or light strings, maybe we can call them. And I will have that for my next project, but I created this in this order, so I went around and jumping around a little bit between my projects. So I just wanted to include that piece of footage so you know where everything comes from. So this disco ball, I wanted it to one of the sides, so I will end up cut off a piece of this disco ball. Since it's quite large, I wanted some of those stars to be visible. And we have our sentiment, and I think that is really nice. I will now create another sentiment, so this one will not end up on this one, but I wanted to include it because I showed it so much. So deck the halls with disco balls. And now comes the second layer here. So I had some more dimension on my disco ball. You could definitely inlay some other types of cardstock in these open spaces. If you like the disco ball to have multiple colors, I think that would be cute. But I didn't do that for my project. I kept it quite simple. And I stacked my sentiment a bunch of times just to give some dimension. So you will see here, I'm just taking it and stacking it, I think 4 times. And then I'm playing around with those pine sprigs again. And there is also this die that cuts more of those sort of star shapes. And I cut them out of that specialty paper just to have as embellishments for my project. I think that turned out really cute. You can see I'm just using some liquid glue to attach those. Sorry about the glare from my camera and from my lamps over my camera. But I think that turned out really nicely and tied everything together. So that's our first card. This will be our second one. And you can see I took that background that we created previously. And in this set, in this stamp set, there is this sort of glowing piece that could go behind a disco ball. But I decided to have it as another element to create interest for my background. So I will use some gold embossing powder. I believe there is a gold embossing powder that also comes in this kit. I didn't get it for this month, but I believe you will get an embossing powder. Don't quote me on that one, but I believe you will. And in this stamp set there is also this In My Merry Era, and I use some white embossing powder on top of it and just created that one. So here is our third card. You can see I'm jumping around a lot, but I just wanted to share every piece of footage that I managed to get on camera with you. So I'm sorry if this is too jumpy for you. You could always slow it down and go back if you like to see more in depth of how I did this. But you can see I cut a lot of those gold stars and those strings of light. Really cute. And you can see I had multiple colors for my lights, and they will also coordinate with the sentiment that I will put on top, and that was the reason behind the color choices here, and they were also included in this kit. So really cute, and I love that. I rounded my corners. It was a while since I did this, but I think it turned out so cute. I pulled out another pink cardstock from my stash. This one is from Spellbinders, and I believe it's the same colors that comes in this kit. And I will have a white vellum frame, some dimension between my sentiments, some dimension between the vellum and the background, just to raise it up and make the sentiment the focal point. And that will pretty much finish this really super easy card to, off. I like it. I went around with a white gel pen for our first card just to create some more dimension. So that is really a good tip if you like to do some lines and some dots. That really helps a project out sometimes, I think. This is a piece of plastic that I just use as a place for my ink to run a little bit more smoothly, and I covered my background just to tone everything down. I rubbed a cloth over it so my embossing powder would stand out a little bit more and not have ink on top of it. I created some more of those pines, and I had some dimension, press and seal, just to keep everything together when I'm placing this down on my card front. And then I can lift this up and create some more dimension underneath my sentiment, and then pop it right back. And you can see this is so cute. I really like it. And I used some foam squares just to have it to be easy, but you can use any foam you like. So now we will have an overview of our 3 cards that we created today. I hope you enjoyed this video and got inspired to create something with the new Hero Arts, my monthly hero. It's not called that anymore, but my monthly subscription. I really like it. I have enjoyed it a lot, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I see you soon. Bye!